Okay, let me get that off my screen. Hi, my name is Anna, and I am a project designer with Michaels. And today we are making these cute little trash bins for your car. And so I have a couple different samples, a couple different materials to show you, and we will jump right into it. So Felicia, if you can keep me here straight for a few minutes so I can show the products, and some of it's a little bit large. Okay.
I'm going to put you
Was
on your phone only because we're having a little issues with with your other
okay.
camera.
No problem. Perfect. Okay. So I will make that work. Not a problem. I'm going to move these guys out of the way a little bit. So quickly, I've done a couple of different options. This one was made with Bernat plush. I have this large skein, just the skein is so big. Let me get this guy here. That's a great yarn. You really want a yarn that's nice and firm. Larger, it makes it a little bit easier, a little bit less rows and stitches. I also did it out of a macrame rope or macrame yarn. It depends on how you look at it. To me, it's kind of ropey. It's a 4mm, so it's a little bit smaller. But I also have the 6mm. It works also. It's just I would do one less row. Depends on how big you want your trash bin. I wanted mine kind of small, so I could put like small things. I didn't want to promote like huge things in there. So it pulls on there. And I also have a sample that I'm working on that is using like this one is using a seasonal yarn, the twisted tones here, or cozy wool. You can use either one, that kind of thing. But it's a little bit more flimsy. So when it hangs, it's going to be a little bit more droopy. So just keep that in the back of your mind when you're deciding or future deciding which yarns you want to use. Now, this one is my absolute 100% favorite. This is my personal one. Started all of this. This yarn is a macrame yarn. It is actually discontinued because it was only brought in seasonally, which is why I did not do the class on this one, but it's such a great yarn. But I just wanted to show that you can add some personalization if you wanted to. Like I added a leather tag here for my car. So and I engraved on it, cut it all in the Cricut. So if you're interested later, I can walk through that super quickly, but we will not make that our focus today. Focus is going to be on a trash bin. Okay, so I am going to work with the large plush. So it'll be this one, this guy here. And as you can see, the sizes are a little bit different. The instructions are absolutely 100% the same. It's just a different yarn hook and tension. So that's why they're, look a little bit different. But we're going to focus a little bit more on the green one here. Product items that you'll need. Of course, you'll need a skein of yarn. You'll need a button, and this is the one I chose, but you can use any of the buttons, or a scrap button that you have around the house, just something large enough that you can hook your yarn through. So when you wrap, like I wrap mine around the headrest on the passenger side, so I can undo the hanger, wrap it around, and move it out to empty the trash bin if there's a lot of things in there, that kind of thing. So it makes it a little bit easier to work with. And you will need a crochet hook if you're using this large yarn here. I believe this is an N. Yeah, this is an N hook. You could probably go a little bit smaller if you needed to, but I wouldn't go too much smaller. And you'll need I say need, you don't absolutely have to have a yarn needle, but it does help make things a little bit easier. So I'm going to put it here on my little magnet part of on my computer, and then scissors. So these little snips from Ginger are awesome. My favorite scissors ever when I do yarn project. Okay. And so let's get started. This is a pretty easy project, or in the easy side. You're going to use some basic stitches. We're going to do a magic ring to start with. We're going to go into some double crochet, and we're going to use like slip stitch, double crochet. We're going to do it, working around, and we're going to work in back loop in one round. That's kind of helps move it transition from the bottom up to the walls. So, all right. We have any questions so far?
There's not a question so far, but I want to check something real quick because we have some people that have issues with the camera.
Oh, with their camera? Okay. Now I'm gonna continue on a little bit, but we can definitely backtrack to the question. I usually work when I crochet in my skeins. I'm going to say 99.9% of the time work middle out. But for this big chunky yarn, I'm going to actually work outside in on the ends just to make it a little bit easier to maneuver. And I'm going to get some of this stuff out of my way here. But I'm going to keep our green guy in sight. So we're going to start with a magic ring, and I will go through this a couple of times if this is new to anybody. But this is how I start my magic ring. I use, especially with this large yarn, I go over my palm. So I start it. So I'm going to get kind of a little bit awkward positioning real quick to show on the camera. So I'm going to hold it with my thumb like this, and I'm going to crisscross over my hand. So you kind of have like an X. Okay. And then I'm going to go, and it's kind of awkward to me. It's like over and under and around. And then grab, it's a little awkward with this large yarn. And then tighten up my ring here. So let's do that. Go through that again. Go with the X. I'm going to go over, grab my yarn, pull it through, and then do a slip through that loop. And then I have my magic. Oh, my magic ring is coming apart. Hold on. Oh, that's what I was. Sorry, I was doing that a little backwards. Go under this one. Grab your crossover, bring it in, and then yarn over and pull through. There we go. Got it. And the reason we're starting with the magic ring is that way we can pull, especially with this large, doesn't get too bulky at the bottom. And with this large yarn, it allows us to work in the ring and then pull it tight once our round is done. Okay. So I'm going to do that since I kind of fluffed it a little bit in the beginning. I'm going to do it one more time. So X over. Okay. Under this first one here, pull this one through. I'm going to yarn over. So I'm using my hand here because this yarn is kind of large. Like I said, it's a little awkward with this big yarn here. Pull through. So however you can get your magic ring. This one's a little awkward here. I'm just going to mess with that a little bit. Okay, so get your magic ring. And then we are going to chain 3. And then you're going to double crochet in your magic ring. Now I grabbed this also, so I don't have to tuck it in later. So I'm going to yarn over, go through my ring, grab my working yarn with my hook, pull it through the ring, yarn over, through 2 loops. So I still have 2 here, yarn over and pull through again these 2. Now, most of you probably already know how to do a double crochet. So I'm going to do one more kind of slow, and then we will kind of start trucking through. Okay. So start with my 1 loop on the hook, yarn over, go through the ring, grab my working yarn and pull it back through the magic ring. So I have 3, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Now, when I went through my ring, I also captured the tail of my magic ring, so I don't have to tuck it in later. Okay, so there are technically 3 double crochets because my chain 3 counts as my first double crochet. Then I have 2 in here, so I need a total of 8 double crochets. So I have 3 now. So I'm not going to go super fast, but I am going to go a little bit faster than the last couple of showings, but I'm going to go a little bit slow, at least for the beginning. I grabbed that tail one more time. And then from now on, I'm not going to grab the tail. The tail, see, it's got kind of short. Okay. So there's 4. Okay. I'm going to do 4 more. But this yarn that's so large, it's kind of tough. If you want to go up in a crochet hook, you can go to an O, There's another one. The Prym makes an O also like this. That's a really good one. I've got it. When I was trying to decide which one to show in this class, I went with the N just because you can find those pretty easy in the aluminum style. Let me count because I was talking and not counting. So I have, hang on. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, one more. And then we're going to join with a slip stitch. Join the first. Okay, so now I'm going to join with my top of my chain 3. Okay, so I just did a slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now this is where it gets a little bit, I'm not going to say tricky, but for some yarns, it's going to get real bulky. That's a good term. Now, before we get started, I'm going to pull that. So you have this little ring. It'll flatten out once we get more, because we're going to go 2 double crochets. Yes.
Hey, Anna, there's a question. Yes. There is a question asking if you can kind of repeat the step or the information before you went to the magic ring. And then also there's questions asking, are you using the thick yarn just so that it can stand up on its own, or would you use a thinner yarn to make it work as well?
You can use a thinner, yes, you can use a thinner yarn as long as it is a stiffer, like a nice stiff yarn. For example, this is actually the macrame rope, but it's a 4 millimeter width. So if you can see, I'm gonna pull these up close to the camera to see the difference between the sizes. This one's a lot thicker and this one's thinner, but it makes this one a little bit more narrow. So you can always add crochet stitches to make it a lot larger, or one more row at your bottom, one more round before you go back loop and start pulling it up the wall. You can do one more round. But if you see here, we did the magic ring and the crochet inside the magic ring. Then we did one row, or one round rather, before we started working up. The same on here. It's just, this is a bulkier yarn. So if you look here, it's exact same pattern, but there's definitely a size difference. So if you go, and it's because of this larger yarn. So you can, however, it is, if you see, like I use, this is right here, Twisted Tones, which is similar to Cozy Wool or not Impeccable, or Woolies Thick and Quick. But I did an extra round here. So I have this round, then I have the round. Oh, I got a little debris in there. So I did the round, the double round that we were about to start, and then one more round just to make it a little bit bigger, because it would have been too small, in my opinion.
And there's a question, but it is asking, how many times did you go around on the one you're currently working on?
In this one right here?
Yes.
I've done 8 double crochets in the magic. I've done 8 double crochets in the magic ring. That's all I've done so far. And then I just pulled it tight with that magic ring tail, which we'll trim off later. So do we want me to go back and
you can actually
do this right here one more time?
You can actually move forward.
Okay. Good deal. Okay. So from here, let me get this guy back out of the way just so I can continue on here. Okay. So now what we're going to do, because we need to make this bigger. We need to increase. We're going to do 2 double crochets in each one. So we'll have 16 in total. Your chain stitch counts as your first double crochet. So we're going to do 2. I always start with 2 in the next stitch and then end with my second one in the stitch with the chain, because it seems to be leading in the stitch. That's just, for whatever reason, that's how I like to do it. So what I'm doing in my first stitch is I'm going to do 2 double crochets in both loops. So we're doing 16 quickly. And let me get some more yarn here. Okay. And it will work itself out as far as, you know, it'll kind of collapse on you right now, but it'll work itself out as we start working up the wall. But this project is very repetitive. So we're going to do a lot of double crochets. It's very, very simple. Once you get the hang of this, I may end up cutting that tail because it's going to get in the way possibly, but we don't need it right anymore. So we can cut it, but I'm going to leave it there just as long as it's going to let me work. Okay. So again, I'm just working 2 double crochets in each stitch around. For a total of 16 in this round. And that's we're not going to increase anymore. That's the max that we're going to do. If you feel it gets a little bit bulky, you can do you can alter it to 2 to 1, 2 to 1, like 2 doubles, 1 double, 2 doubles, 2 doubles, 1 double, or you can do 2 doubles, 1, you know, 1 double, 2, 1, 2, 1 around. It just kind of depends on how you feel about how big yours is getting. But with this yarn, I like to do the 2 all the way around. So I have a little bit larger size, you know, bottom of my basket. And Felicia, do you know, or can you mention our hashtag so we can, if anyone wants to hashtag their projects, we'd love to see what you're doing.
Naval is a common place to get one. We're all attached to a mother in the beginning of life, and we're attached with an umbilical cord. Yeah. And the umbilical cord goes through a hole. Now, some people don't realize, but the umbilical cord don't stop there. Mm-hmm. It keeps going all the way up to the kid's liver. Mm-hmm. Because you were feeding her for 9 months. Baby's born, top, the cord, send the baby home with that clip on there that's as big as the child. Yeah. Then it shrivels up, dries up, and falls off, and then the kid has an innie.
Lisa, do you know what that?
Then later in life, that whole.
So I'm going to continue. Okay, so I have 15 right now. I'm going to put my 16th one here. If you started with a double in your first stitch, that's great. But it just, to me, on mine, it kind of seems a little more natural to go here. So that's why I do my single at the end. I'm probably the only one in the world who does it that way, but that's how I do it. So I have my 16th one there, and now I'm going to join at the top of my chain 3. I'm going to slip stitch to join, and I am going to chain 3. Hold on, I'm starting to get a little bit twisted here. Okay, so chain 3. So now I'm going to start working up the wall. So here I've got, this is where we are here. So we're going to go in the back loop only. So that will kind of provide the curve and the turn up. But I'm still doing, but at this point, we're doing 1 double crochet in each stitch from the previous round. So we're going to do our yarn over, go in the back stitch only, and then do your double crochet. Okay, back stitch only, double crochet, just 1. So we're just doing 16 around now. And you'll see it's going to start, you'll see it's kind of, it's built, kind of sitting up straight, if you will. It's doing a 90 or 45 degree. So instead of working around in our flat bottom, we're now going up the walls of the basket. And I actually, the way I feel when we're done, I'm going to turn mine inside out So this to me is more of the wrong side, even though it's exposed where your normal the right side. But that's up to you how you want to do yours. That's just how I do mine. Remember, right, for this round only, we're doing back loop only. And if I'm going too fast, please let me know. But right now we're just doing one double crochet. Scissors are getting caught up here. I'm going to move this. Now, teaching an adult class is kind of new to me. I'm usually doing kids' jewelry classes, so this is a nice change. So if you have kids interested in any kind of jewelry, check out our classes. I do a lot of kids' jewelry classes. I'll be doing school spirit one here, I believe in September. I don't have the date. I should, but I went to put it on my calendar earlier and realized I didn't have the date. So I'm waiting for that information. Okay, then when we get to the end, we're just going to slip stitch with the top of our chain 3. And then we're going to crochet, chain 3 again. And for our next 2 rounds, all we're doing is just normal 1 double crochet in each stitch around. And that's with both loops, not back loop only, just those with the loops. And we'll work all the way around. So here I'm going to slip stitch, join with a slip stitch, chain 3. Okay, it's still kind of, it feels like it's kind of up, but when I flip it inside out, it'll be a little bit more like this. The shape will come together. So I'm going to do 2 more rows. I dropped one on this last row, so I'm going to do 1 more. I thought it looked kind of tight. There we go. So you should have 16 around. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to do 2 more rows. We good on time? Yeah, we're good. I'm usually working from this side. I'm going to put my yarn down so it's easier to navigate here. Since I'm right-handed, it was kind of awkward going across my body here. So we're doing pretty good. No questions or anything. And already having basic knowledge of some of these crochet stitches is definitely huge help with this project. This yarn now doesn't want to slide through my hand. I find it interesting all the different ways people hold their yarn. When I was learning about 20-something years ago, I would go up to friends and say, okay, crochet, now stop. Let me see what you're doing. And my mom, and then I kind of developed my own way to hold it based on kind of what I saw other people doing and what was the most comfortable for me. This is a pretty quick and easy project. It's nice for gifts. My mom was a huge crocheter, but I made one for her for Mother's Day and she was so happy. If they threw from where they are right now, and she loves sunflower, so instead of a Bronco on her tag, I did a little sunflower. And actually, the funny thing is my teenage daughter was the one who brought this to my attention. She wanted it for her car. And I was like, oh, I can do that. So I crocheted one for her and then went, I want one, crocheted one for me. And so it was like all kinds of generations are loving this style, which is nice. Now this basket should be a total of either, 6 or 7 rounds, depending on how you want yours. You can keep going. I keep kind of stretching mine out because I tend to be a little bit tight. And I'm talking, so I wasn't counting. So I'm going to go and count real quick. Yep. Okay. Perfect. And I'm going to join with a slip stitch. Before we do our this last row can be done a couple of different ways. Let's see, got a round, 1, 2, hang on, 1, 3, 4. I'm gonna do one more double crochet round, and then I'm actually gonna do my last round with just a simple single crochet around. You can do a, a slip stitch around, double, half double, an actual double, depending on if you want yours a little taller. The way I did this one was I did in mine with a single around. I think it provided just a nice little simple ridge at the top. Ridge is not the right term, but a nice little border. It gave it just a little bit different, but unless you're really paying close attention, I don't think you see the difference really. It's not super noticeable. Now to close this, I chose the oblong button. I feel like it's the easiest and the best option for this large chunky yarn, but round buttons work great as well if that's what you have or chose. The benefit to the round one is a little bit more flush to the basket, so when you have your trash in there, nothing gets caught, but I haven't had any problems with anything getting caught with mine. So again, we're just double crocheting around in each stitch. And for me, like I said, this right here to me is the wrong side. So I'm going to turn it inside out. But once I get my button sewed and everything, I'm going to do everything I can to make this so much easier on me as the crocheter, crafter. And then flip it around and make it look, to me, it looks a little bit prettier on the inside, but I'm not sure why I think that. Doing all right out there. Seems like the few people who have their cameras on, looks like they're heads down working on their projects, or at least the ones I can see. That's awesome. Love it. There's several colors in this type of yarn. I'm an army green girl, so that's why I went with this one. But I did not pick up another skein before in time. And I had a purple, so here we go. I will give this as a gift. Actually, I'll probably donate it up at the office. Let's see. Yep, there we go. And again, because I'm talking and not counting, I just want to double check and make sure I'm doing this right. Okay, so from my last round, where I said I was going to do a single, I'm going to pull this out a little bit because I'm going to kind of stretch this. It'll stretch out on its own, but like I said, I tend to be a little bit tight when I crochet, especially larger yarn. Okay, so for my last single, if you want to do another round of double, go for it. I'm just going to show this single. I'm going to, I did a slip stitch, and I'm going to chain 2 this time. So I'm going into a single, and I'm just going to single crochet around. And remember, I got to remember not to do that yarn over because I've been doing it last several rows. I tend to be a creature of habit. If you wanted to do like a half double slip stitch to do a little bit of popcorn ridge, that might be kind of pretty. Not popcorn, but like a little bit of a puff. Not a, one of the big puffs, but a small little nod, maybe a little border. Just going around here.
Oh, 195. You waited more than me.
Doing good on time. Yeah, we're real good on time. Looks like my top looks like it's closing in, but it's not. But even if it's a little bit tighter at the top, kind of helps keep the trash in, right? Okay, so when you get to your last round and you get all the way and you want to slip stitch to close up your round, I'm going to do one. Yeah, I'm going to go in here. You don't want to bind off, because what we're going to do is simply chain. Now this chain is just going to depend, how many chains is just going to depend on how long, your yarn size, the space you're going to hang it from. In my car, I believe this is 8 is all I needed to go around. So it just depends on how big you need this loop to fit in around the place you're going to hang it in your car. Okay, so I think at 10 is a good average. But if you want to watch how I close this up and then finish yours up after you go out and measure, that works. So I'm just going to close it with, I'm just going to do 10 and see what that looks like. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Can't see me. 9. This looks like it might be way too long. 10. You want to extend your last one. So when it comes in here, remember your button's going to be a little lower. Now my button's going to be on this outside because I'm going to flip it inside out, but it's going to be a little bit lower, stitched in here. So that might not be too bad. But I think I'm going to take 2 out because I feel like it's a little bit long. And that's a little bit better for me. So I'm going to leave mine at 8. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to leave a long tail, but I am going to cut it from the skein. On an outside stitch. These scissors are usually amazing. I was looking at it down. Okay. I'll toss the skein to the side. So to close this out here, I'm actually just going to wrap it a couple of times. And then I'm going to just the best I can get this on, because this thing is a large, may not go on there. May just have to use your crochet hook and tighten around. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to pull this through here, through my loops or my wraps to kind of tie it all together, tighten it up. Now I want my loop large enough to be able to button. But if you use this long button, if you see, it's gonna, because it's gonna go like this on your, it's gonna hang on there. So it doesn't matter if your loop's a little too big. And then I'm going to cut this flush. Now, if you want to go back through and add some glue there, a little bit of hot glue, fabric glue, whatever, just to make sure that doesn't come loose, that's definitely up to you. And then I'm just going to toss this little piece because I don't need that. I'm going to grab a button. I took it off. Actually, I accidentally took it off of here. So there it goes. There's that. And I'm just going to get a piece of scrap yarn. Doesn't matter. Not really going to see it. Let's see. I've got some. Here, I'll just use this right here. This yarn right here. I've got a little. I can find the end here. Usually, I mean, it doesn't have to be yarn. It can be rope. It can be embroidery floss, just a little piece of scrap, whatever you've got lying around. Because we're going to use it to sew the button on, if I can find my end here. And I'm just going to cut a small piece off and then put that back together later. And then I'm just using a yarn needle here. Now you can use a crochet hook if you want to sew, to help kind of weave this in and out, but I tend to. Yes, I just stuck that fuzzy yarn in my mouth. Gross. Nice and furry now. Okay. Oops. I saw Felicia put the hashtag in the chat, so make sure to go in and look at that. We'd love to see your projects. It's in the morning. And I'm just going to tie this off. Just the way I kind of do things. It kind of makes it a little bit bulky. I don't want that bulky, but. So sew this on any way you want. There's no like right or wrong way to sew this on or where to sew it. So I want mine about right here. But because this is my inside, I'm going to crochet with this knot out. Or I'm sorry, sew. It's not out. Should have probably put it on the inside because I don't want that knot to be seen from my, when I flip this inside out, but I'll probably play with it here in a minute and see what I can do. Okay. So once you do that, usually what I do then is I go through this one, but I don't go all the way through. Come out here. So then I can just knot it. I'm going to cut this open. All right, now I'm just kind of working the best way I can figure, get the knots in. So I didn't give myself a whole lot of slack here. And just knot it off. And I didn't have a whole knot, but I would do another pass through, which I'll go back through. And then this, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to, because I don't want this bulky knot right here. I'm going to see if I can undo it here. And then I'm going to just slide it through where I just did that one knot. And get it out. I know I could just cut it, but then my slack is even smaller. It's a problem. Okay. So then I'm just gonna pull that through on the back side. Is that first one? Nope, it's the second one. That was the first one. That's all right. I'll mess with it afterwards. But what I'm gonna do is basically I'm just gonna, no, we're just gonna make this easy. Okay. So then once I pull this through, I'm gonna I'll do it afterwards, but I'm gonna pull that through and knot it. I'm gonna pull it through just to the back here and knot it. Okay. So I have this right here. This is what we have going on. And you want to trim your ends so you don't have any kind of stragglers. So right here's on my outside, but I'm going to flip it on the inside because I feel like that helps keeps it shape a little bit better. And then I'm gonna cut this. I usually leave a small tail inside just so it has a little bit of pull. It's up to you if you want that or not. And here is our basket. Isn't that cute? Pretty easy project, especially if you want to do a couple of handmade gifts, or if you have a booth somewhere like at a church auction or neighborhood craft fair. You can knock several of these out. Yes, ma'am.
In the very beginning, someone was asking, since you finished kind of early, could you go back and kind of redo the magic circle?
Sure, absolutely. Let me get my trash out of the way here. Grab my yarn. Okay, so the magic circle. Okay. So you want to start with your palm. So I'm a little awkward because I'm right-handed and I have the camera on my left side. So I'm going to take the yarn. Let's see. I'm going to turn around like this. See if this helps. Okay. Now I'm going to wrap it around my hand, and I'm kind of loose, and I'm going to do an X on the top of my hand. So if you can see, I've got an X across my hand. Okay. So I'm going to go under this first wrap, grab the top X with my hook, bring it under and over. Okay. And then I'm going to yarn over that working yarn. So the working yarn, and pull it through the loop. Okay. There's your magic ring. Okay. Do it again. I'm just going to put my hook down. So, okay. So I'm holding it with my palm. I use my thumb to kind of hold it in place. Wrap it around and crisscross over. I'm going to be as deliberate as I can here and make it a little bit easier to see. I'm going to go under this first wrap. Slide my hook under the first wrap. And I'm going to grab the top wrap, pull it under and up, Okay. Then I'm going to reach in here and grab. Oops, it went under the same one. I grabbed the top one, but it's the working yarn, and then pull it through that loop that I just created. And then I'm just going to straighten up. I'm just straightening up the yarn tail, pulling this tight, pulling a little bit tighter. But this is the ring I'm going to work in. So once we get some in here, we can pull this and it'll tighten up our ring and make that bottom nice and snug so nothing gets through that magic ring. But the magic ring is larger. It allows us to work around it, not as crowded. Is that a little bit easier to see? And that will be in the video.
It was.
Thanks. Right. The on-demand video. So since we had time, that was definitely in there. And do we have any other questions? I can talk a little bit about the tag if anyone's interested in learning about that.
There's not any other questions at this moment.
Awesome. I'm not going to go into super, because this isn't a Cricut project, but or a technology project, because you can do it on several things. But I happen to do this on Cricut. I just designed my logo or what I wanted on here, and I actually set it to engrave, and then I duplicated it 5 times, then layered them on top of each other so I can get a really good deep cut. And then I did it, and then I just cut out. It's just a rectangle, just a large rectangle. I did physical holes with my leather punch, but you can always use like a push pin. I feel like the cutting machines don't necessarily get those small cuts really well in leather, so I just did it myself. And then I use the leather dye or the leather stain and stained it because this is a natural color, and tied it on. So it was as simple as that, or sewed it on. If you can see, I have the little, so simple as that. For my mom's sunflower, hers is actually a rectangle in the front, and it has a large sunflower on it, which turned out really, really cute. Did a Bible verse for her, just the location in the Bible. So it was kind of cool for what, I thought she would like. Or I think this is super simple and super cute on its own. But you can do like metal stamping if you want to do a little metal stamp and then sew on, or a charm. I mean, there's so many things that you can do to personalize this a little bit better or a little bit more. And if you're unsure about some of the ends, a little bit of fabric glue, push some hot glue inside the knots where you can't see it. I mean, there's a couple different ways you can do that, but I've been using this one for about a year now, and it's not even like remotely coming loose, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. And with this thicker yarn, it's perfect. I mean, I think it's just this is a good yarn to work with. But again, you can see here with the rope or the macrame material, this was the 4mm. But if you wanted to do the 6mm, this one's a little bit thicker. If you can look here, like here's a 6 and a 4. You can see that there's a little bit difference. But if you want to compare it to the yarn that we just did, it's a little bit thinner than the yarn we just did, but it is a little bit more bulky. So I would go up to I think I used, where's my crochet hook? I had it on my table. I may put it away. I believe I used, I can, it's right here. I can see exactly what I used. Nope, it's not in there. I just had it. It's around here somewhere. I don't know where it was at, but it's I believe it is. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. An L is what I used for this one. So an L for the 4mm. If I were to do this one right here, I would definitely use either the N or an O, even a P if you want to go up. But you might even be able to, with this one, might be able to do a hand crochet. So basically just the same thing, just using your fingers. So pretty cool. I think the magic ring might be a little bit harder to do with here, but with your hands without a hook, but I'd have a hook handy just in case. And if we don't have any other questions, we can wrap up.
No, we don't have any other questions at all. I think we're all caught up. I just want to remind everyone that to always visit michaels.com/classes to see any of our upcoming classes. And please know that come next week, if you're interested, is our jewelry week. So we will have classes twice a day. So please visit our website and see what we have available, and hope to see you in our next class. Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Anna, you have anything? All right. Bye, guys.
I'm good. Bye. Thanks, guys.